going to ask for a brief presentation from the people who are proposing the project at 173 Endicott Street. We will then take any questions based on the presentation. We will then hear from abutters and who wish to make comments. We will then hear from members who are not abutters but wish to make comments. So,
Great. Where would you like me?
Right up
Go up to the side, or?
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
Put
this here.
Great.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the association, thank you for having us tonight. For the record, my name is Dan Toscano from Drago and Toscano Attorneys at Law, located at 15 Broad Street, Suite 610 in Boston. I'm here representing Urban Court Development in their proposal at 173 Endicott Street. Just to introduce you to our team, right to my immediate left is Peter Vanko, who is the architect. Sitting at the table is Bobby Quinn with the green shirt and the hat on. Urban Court Development, Joe DeGangi, Urban Court Development, and our real estate agent is Tony Gelati, who in the neighborhood, I believe everybody knows her. I have about 40 copies of the proposal. Unfortunately, I was going to present the PowerPoint presentation, but there's been made some changes to the plans, so I wasn't able to update the PowerPoint. So we got some drawings, and we'll pass out some plans here. But hopefully everybody can share. Right now, it's just an empty parking lot. There was an existing building there many years ago, well before my time, a 3-story building there, and it's been knocked down. I couldn't tell you when. However, it's been a parking lot for many years, and now we have the opportunity to build on that property. Prior to coming up with a design, we had met with our elected officials, met with the former BRA, which is the Boston Planning and Development Agency. We've met with a number of members of the community. We've had extensive outreach with our abutters. We've had 2 abutters meetings. In addition to 2 abutters meetings, we also been working with our abutters via email. The original, we'll talk about, in a nutshell, I'll tell you what we're doing. Constructing a 5-story residential building that is going to be home ownership condominiums with the original plan with 7 parking spots on the ground level. Right now, there's a permit there, I believe, for 6 parking spots. We proposed 7 parking spots originally, 55-foot building, 9 residential units, and the units vary. There's 4 studio units. There are 2 1-bedroom units, 2 2-bedroom units, and 1 3-bedroom unit. The floor plan, as you can see, as you go through it, the first floor is the garage, and how we got to the 7 units. We have 4 parking spots, and then stackers. 3 of those parking spots are stackers, so cars are stacked on top of each other. So that's how we got to the 7 parking spots. That takes up the first floor. There's also inside the first floor trash room, an elevator shaft, and bicycle storage or racks where you can lock up your bicycle. On the second floor, you had 2 studios, 3 apartments. The 2 studios are on the end. The average square footage of roughly 450 square feet to 470 square feet on the studios. The 1-bedroom residential unit is approximately, now it's at 611 square feet. Same floor plan on the 3rd level. That would be 6 units. And then the other 3 levels, the other 3 units would be level 4 and story number 5. They're duplexes. So there's 2. Unit number 7 is a duplex that's on the far left, which would face North Street. The middle unit is a 3-bedroom residential unit, and then the one on Endicott Street is a 2-bedroom residential unit as well. On the roof, there are 2 private roof decks and 1, not a common roof deck, but a common access for the mechanicals that are on the roof. The roof decks, private roof decks, are for unit number 7 and unit number 9. So it'll be the one on the Martin Street side and the one in the middle, which has exclusive use for those units, and access is only gained through their unit up to stairwell and into their head house. So that was the original design of the building. After meeting, like I said, extensive meeting with our abutters, we've changed the design. Peter will go through the design. However, what we changed is we had concerns, there was concerns with the height. There was concerns with the parking, and there was concerns with the bay windows. As you can see, all around this property is approximately 1,812 square feet. And it's fairly unique property. It's not just a square corner, it's kind of rounded, and we put bays going around. All the bays were about 36 inches, which is 3 feet coming out over the sidewalk. It's about 12 to 15 feet high above the sidewalk. After listening to all the neighbor concerns and the issues, we've made a number of changes to address the height. The height of the building is now coming down to 50 feet. When we come down to 50 feet, it'll be in direct alignment with this building next to it. In this building, you can see the second one in is probably a little higher, maybe 3-4 feet. That's probably the only building I think at that street that's 55. But we'll be at 50 feet, coming down 5 feet. So we're in alignment with the building right next to it. We are eliminating 3 parking spots. We are eliminating stackers. So now we're going to have just the 4 parking spots that are inside the building. The issue with the stackers, people were concerned not only with noise of the stackers, but also causing some traffic, pulling out, parking on Margin Street, and while someone lowers a stacker, moves another vehicle out and moves in. So we eliminated that. So we now have just 4 parking spots for the 9 residential units. And the other thing was we adjusted the bays. People were concerned in particular on Margin Street and Endicott Street that the bays were 36 inches, 3 feet, seemed to come out too high, seemed to be, appear to be intrusive or more 3D. We reduced the bays over here to 18 inches, and then on the other side on Margin Street, 18 inches, and then people talk about the size of the bays here. They still run 36 inches over at the corner. From Margin Street to the building over, it was 27 feet 2 inches. I think from here to cross the street on Endicott Street is probably a little bit wider, and then you have a tremendous amount of space, this being the corner. So that's why we left the bay here to exceed, well, not to exceed, but to go over the sidewalk 36 inches. So I think I'm going to let Peter talk about, also people had concerns with the design of the building. So we changed the design. Peter will talk about the change of design, but the number of units have not changed. They've come down a little bit in square footage. The 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms, huge units. They're great size. They're well over 1,000 square feet, roughly 1,000 to a little bit over 1,200 square feet for the duplex units. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Peter. Peter will talk about the new design change based on the feedback from our abutters, and we'll be prepared to answer some questions. And I can go over the zoning violations, which is a typical, but I'll talk about them once we get them. With the FAR, rear yard insufficient, open space, and the parking.
Kurt, thanks, Sam. Met some of you at our last work session. We actually invited the neighborhood in to talk through some of the details. We really wanted to treat the design a little bit more organically and try to work with the neighborhood. We wanted to focus on details, and we've had some offline conversation. That's been via email. It's been via that forum. We really think that we've come up with something that we want to show you tonight that's been pretty responsive. So as Dan pointed out, the previous design, I'll just be very, very brief. You know what it was, but just as a point of comparison, just going to put these 2 side by side. What we are hoping to do, it's right here in the back, is that we've brought down the mass and the scale by 5 feet. Additionally, we have reduced the size and scale of the bays. We've also made them a lot more historically accurate, in the sense that a lot of bays would have been done with tin, and they were beautiful. You had amazing craftsmen who were creating these tin bays 100 years ago. We want to recreate something like that. We actually did a bay study in the neighborhood. We did basically a 3-block radius. We looked at every bay in the neighborhood. And we think we've borrowed some of the best details from those, and we're actually going to recreate some of that here. So what we've done is we've lowered by 5 feet in general. So we have a meeting of the cornice lines. We're looking for harmony, right? We're looking for urban harmony. We're looking for a building that fits. And the things I think that really do that as I mentioned to some of you, an end cap building is particularly hard to do. An end cap building, it has a bit of grandeur associated with it, right? So for it to be harmonious, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to play off the other elements going down the street. We're going to pick up the cornice line of our direct neighbor. And as well, we're going to pick up the details of a neighbor across the street in this bay. So you can see this alignment that we now have. Mass has come down. We're at 50 feet. We lost the stacked parking. We lost that 5 feet right here on our first floor. Because we had stacked parking, we had a lot of volume inside. That's where we brought that down. So essentially, we're really happy with the mass reduction here. We think that the building has achieved some really great details. Very eager to hear what you all think. See how it's morphed and changed since the last meeting. And I guess that's all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions? John Fiamara, a question?
Peter, how many bays are now there?
Same count. There are a total of 4.
And you're counting the corner one as one?
Correct.
Okay, so.
Correct. Same bay count. Same bay count, but reworked.
Any other questions? Yes?
What is the new size of the studio units?
There are the average 4, well, no, I don't want to say average, I apologize. There are 2 at 450 and 2 of them are at, I think, 478.
That seems to be larger than the figures you gave just now for the original plan. So where did you have
The original plan was,
size?
the original plan, there was 2 studios at 450 and then 2 of them were at 490. So we lost a little square footage on the Endicott Street side, those units that came down. And even in the middle units on the 2nd and 3rd level, the 1-bedroom units were at, so on the 2nd level, it was at 622, I think it came down to about 611, and then on the 3rd level was a little bit higher, it came down a little bit. So we had to squeeze in a little bit.
Yes,
One more
question? Yeah.
Did you do anything on the back? You're still building to the property line? I was concerned about the 4 apartments where all the windows would be just facing the back of that wall and have no sunlight or
We're still building on the
Yeah.
back. There is about, I haven't measured it, but maybe 3 to 5 feet to those windows is a little alleyway.
Right,
that's
it
owned
belongs
by-
to that property.
Belongs to that
But they
property
put the trash barrels there. I mean,
Well,
that's
they still have access to
3
the trash.
3 feet of sunlight. Okay. And you're still higher than that building that's on that side, so.
No, not a lot, no.
Let's,
I'm
we'll
just concerned.
focus on questions and then everyone should have time to comment. But are there any other questions?
I have a question about the parking again. Is it deeded and it can only go with the condo?
Yes.
It cannot be a separate entity?
Okay.
Like, can a condo owner sell their parking spot to somebody else?
I mean, they would be deeded to the unit, I assume once it's deeded to the unit, it'd be in the condo docs, that it'd be, comes to the unit, so it'll be sold with the unit. So, and that was one of the issues concerning the abutters, I believe, the Chipotle family did bring it up, so we did address that and the concern with the stackables, so we took away the stackables and deeded the spots.
Okay.
How much is the?
And I forgot to remind people to identify themselves
Okay.
before you ask a question or make a comment.
Marlene Porcelati, I live at 81. How much is the total square footage now?
Total, for FAR purposes, 83, 85, I believe, if I remember correctly.
But it's still above the.
Still above the FAR, it's a violation, yes.
Yeah, that includes parking though, right?
Let's say that.
That includes the parking square footage.
It does not include the garage, it includes the common space and the stairwell. So we had approximately, so in order to build a property, according to the building code, we had to add an elevator and 2 stairwells, second means of egress. So approximately 415 square feet on the 2nd and 3rd level that is not livable space that's calculated within the FAR. Also on the 4th and 5th level, there's some space, and in the garage, it's calculated with the FAR, but it's not livable space, but it's calculated.
Okay, we have another question here.
Eileen Jacobs on Commercial Street. Are there any public parking spots on either of the streets that will be lost as a result of building, and if so, how many?
None. There's already a curb cut right here. We plan on using the existing curb cut that's there. There's already a parking garage. I think the permit, I believe it was six parking spots, so there's already a curb cut. We're gonna use the exact curb cut for it.
So the one that the parking that's right next to the garage is.
Should remain. There's no reason why, if there's space for it.
Okay, and Sean?
Yeah, Sean Sanger over on Prince Street. When you lowered the height by 5 feet, I guess I'm curious now, what is the height between the sidewalk level and the bottom of the bay? Did that also get 5 feet shorter?
It did. It actually got 3 feet shorter. We had some plenum space in there because we need a little bit of structure to support that floor structure. With bottom of bay right now is 9 to 9.5 feet. Somewhere there.
On the ground?
Yeah, which there's precedent for that. There are a lot of bays that have similar heights.
So, Jason?
And the bays are not included in the current property line, or are they?
No.
They're not.
We'll have to go through PIC.
So they cover it,
They do.
Okay, question here?
Richard Jacobs, 220 Commercial Street. This is a vacant lot now?
This is a parking lot.
How high was the building?
Prior, it was 3 stories. I don't know the exact height of it, but it was well before my time.
But it would have been shorter than...
It would have been, and so would these other buildings as well.
Right. We've located a historical photo. It's strange. All of Endicott was 3.5 or 4 stories with gabled roofs. The whole block has risen up to be the 50 to 55 feet. So the precedent for this corner really is unknown. North Margin Street, did anyone see the image I circulated? Yeah. Those were 4.5 story buildings on North Margin.
But this would be higher than what you believe the building was before.
This will be higher than the original building.
Look at the direct neighbor in that photograph too. They had it was all it was a similar typology going down Endicott that is long gone.
Yeah. I mean, if you made it any lower, we wanted to be uniform with the street going down Endicott Street and even along Margin Street. There's one building that's smaller, but as you get past that 2-story building, there's buildings that are 50 or 55.
A 3-story building here would feel non-harmonious. It would feel a little odd, a little bizarre when you look down Endicott.
Here we have a question. Jean?
Packaging and 63 Atlantic Avenue. I was curious about the structures on the roof that you show in the plan. You don't show any structures on the roof of the neighboring buildings. So, are there structures on the roof?
On the neighboring buildings, there are head houses. Yeah, but
and are your structures taller
than
the structures on the neighboring buildings?
I don't know. I mean, I had to measure it, but
How high are your head houses?
So they're about 8 feet above that 50 feet because we have an angled head house.
All right, so they're higher than mine anyway.
Our direct
I think yours is probably 55 feet plus a head house.
plus a head house, so you're probably at 63. So we do have a chimney on the neighboring building. It's hard to access those types of things. We'd love to go measure it. If anyone wants to listen in our buildings, we'll gladly go measure. But I guess, is it in keeping with similar rooftop structures? Absolutely. We're not asking for extraordinary height above and beyond. We're asking for normal roof access.
And the head house really just encompasses the stairs. One of them, I believe, is 43 square feet. The other one might be 80 square feet. So very, very small. Just to go around the stairs. It's not for living space.
That's a dimension line. It's not a, yeah, sure.
Okay,
One more question.
yes, one more
What
question.
is the precedent for the height of the bay windows? Is it 9 feet anywhere else ever?
No, they in general most of the bays are 10 to 12. Most of the bays are 10 to 12.
Way off the
Yep.
ground, yeah.
There are. If you look down Endicott, look, you can see several bays. It's even in this image. The bottom of this bay on Endicott, that is 9.5 feet. off of the sidewalk. Very
It's
similar.
much less
No,
than
that one's
36.
actually, no, that one's actually about 28 inches deep.
28, which
Yep.
is less than 36.
It's a little less, but we too now are going in.
But it's 18 where everybody had concerns on
Correct. We're
Endicott
pushing it.
Street and then on Margin Street, it's 18 inches. So in the corner where there's plenty of space, at the corner, in the intersection here, that's where it remains at the 36 inches. So it didn't feel intrusive to people that live directly across the street, in particular, Marlene, Stan, Yucca.
We
I think
pushed
we're
it.
going to go to comments now, just so we have enough time. We do have a tight agenda. So I'm going to ask first for any abutters who have comments, and if you would identify yourself first. I'll start taking at the abutters' comments. Any abutters? John?
I'm John Fiumara. I'm the owner of 165 Endicott Street. My family's been on the street for about 120 years. So I want to start off by I appreciate the development team meeting with the abutters, and they've tried to respond, and they have made some revisions, which I appreciate. I know there were concerns about the other abutters because we've been meeting as well. And I passed out something about why we opposed the proposal, and that was before we heard the changes. So I'll just address situations that they haven't addressed, which I still oppose for these reasons. The FAR hasn't really changed much, so it's probably about 50% over what the FAR is of 3. Okay, the
John,
earlier...
could you just explain what you mean by FAR?
Oh, the floor area ratio, which means they can build up 3 times the square footage of the lot, which is 1,800 square feet, which means they can have 5,400 of apartment space, including the common areas. Okay. The structure on this parcel was 3 stories before now, and I was responding with Peter because of the questions about the height, and it's not just the 55-foot height limit, there's also a rooftop overlay zoning law. And many people in this room I worked with that passed that in 1985, like Mary Ann and a lot of other people. So the reason why we did it was that whatever buildings were there in 1985, you couldn't automatically go up to 55 feet, which what would have happened? The whole neighborhood would have been 55 feet. So you could only go up as high as the current building. On this parcel, the last building was 3 stories. So that was like it has the right to come back to 3 stories. So anything between 3 and 5, they would need a variance. And then I want to say one other thing. None of the abutters oppose a development on that site. We think a building should be on the site at some point. But there are issues that we would like to see addressed. The bay, we appreciate they came in with all bays at 36 inches. So they have come down to 18 inches on like the other side. But when you look at the corner one, that's still 36 inches. And if at the very corner, it's not 36 inches. From the corner of the building coming straight out to the corner of the sidewalk, it's 4.5 feet. Because you have to make a triangle, 3 to 3, and it's 4.2 something to be exact. So that's how much it is. At the last abutters meeting, they were going to raise the bottom of the bays up to 13 feet. But to address another concern we had about the lifts, which there are no lifts in the neighborhood in use right now, they says, well, we'll go up to 13 feet. It was 12 at the time. And 9.5 feet seems very low. There may be 1 or 2 others, but 9.5 feet, I think, is rather low. Another issue we had was that there are 4 apartments on the back side of the parking lot, and where they're building right to the property line, those 4 apartments have no air or light whatsoever. And the 3 to 5 feet that they have belongs to that property, and they put their trash cans there, and they have since I was born. So those people won't get any light. So that's another issue. I'm glad they addressed the lifts, so that's no longer an issue. But even if you look at the building right now, the architecture, in my estimation, isn't compatible with the neighborhood, that much glass. It's nice contemporary style, lots of glass and bays. I think it belongs outside the north end. Our zoning district, we worked on it for many years so that we can have buildings with nice brick. If you have one bay, most buildings have one, if they have any, some have two. As a matter of fact, they told us they did a bay study, which is fine, but it's not what you say, it's what you do. And what we heard there didn't sound right to me, so I did my own bay study. I went to an area of North Washington, Stillman, North Margin, Endicott, and all the streets in between. What we found was that there were 146 buildings. Only 14 had bays. The total bays were 19. So there were 5 with 2 bays. So as far as the issue with bays, I think that project should have no more than the most of any other building in that whole area, which would be 2. And the building they were pointing to across the street, which is 178 Endicott Street, was the only bay that was at 36 inches. And I'm very familiar with that building because I was born in 178 Endicott Street. So I would like to see them, address those issues, only have 2 bays, or even if you're going to go with that bay at the corner, I still think it's an eyesore if they could come in. So, on that basis, that's why I still have to oppose it.
Thank you, John. Are there any other, no, I think we have other people who'd like to comment. Or do,
Hi, I'd like to.
Yes.
This feels a little bit big. It feels like this is going to just overtake the area. It's not pushed back anywhere. It's still out to the edge of the sidewalk, and the bay is going down. And I know you did. I really appreciate
The base came down because everybody had concerns with the roof,
Right.
that we were a little higher here, so we lowered the height of the building.
okay. Any other abutters?
We got one behind you.
Oh,
Hi.
okay, sure.
Hi, Alyssa Tisano, 79 North Margin Street, my mother-in-law's building, and she's recovering from knee surgery, so she can't be here. I want to thank Daniel for addressing the concerns that we had at the butters meeting. They came back with the 3 major issues, and they've adjusted, so I do appreciate that to the development team and to Daniel. Obviously, it sounds like the main issue is the bay window, maybe the one in the front. I know the ones on the side got scaled back, which are great because North Margin Street's very small, but like John said, they need to put something that lot is going to happen, but maybe if they could just scale back, it sounds like maybe that will make everyone happier. I think it looks much better.
Thank you.
I just want to say.
Any members who have comments? Yes, Jason.
Almost about my mother lives at 126 Prince Street with her windows above pillars, which face this property. And I know her concern, and they addressed some with it would be mostly the mass, but that corner bay window. I think bringing in the other ones is very much appreciated. But now that I realize, and she knows it's 9.5 feet above the sidewalk, but it's over the property line, and it's even though it's a probably legal size sidewalk, it's narrow there. I think that's her main issue. The developer could address that. I think there went a lot of points, a lot of people over with that corner. Because if you look at the building, it's mostly bay windows with very little regular building. So it's not a building with bay windows, it's bay windows with building.
Okay, any other comments?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Matt Genatasio, 57 North Washington Street. Hopefully that'll be a future home. Me and my wife Laura have lived in this neighborhood for about 15 years. I know a lot of people in this room, and we just want the same opportunity that you guys have had of living in the place that you love. We have 2 children that go to St. John's here. I'm sure some of you have gone to St. John's as well. We just want the same opportunity that you guys had to have them grow up in a place that they love. And and that's why I'm glad you guys are buddies, because you care, and so do we. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
I want to make a comment as well. I'm Laura. Hi, everybody. As Matt said, you know, really this is a dream for us. Last summer, my daughter wanted to write a letter, and she wrote a letter with me. We just printed 500 times so she can find a home for her, a brother, and obviously us. So the reason why we like this project is because we really respect Bobby, and he's very ethical. I think he loves the neighborhood just as much as we do, and we love his vision and how he want to respect, you know, the community. So maybe we can choose another place, but we feel that he's gonna help us to have a safe place, and we really want a place that is not gonna be a lot of confusion, but it's gonna be a safe place for our kids. And we live in the same building, and we really appreciate the way he conduct his business. So
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think that's it for, Phyllis? Yes.
Phyllis Beebe, 126 Prince Street. Will the shadows be the same now that the building is lowered on 126 Prince?
I can't imagine that the shadows, we've done an extensive shadow study that we shared with all the abutters. I can't imagine that they're going to change significantly, coming down 5 feet and bringing in the bays. These bays probably didn't create any shadows. I think we went over it with 126 Prince Street, feel that there wasn't really anything affected.
Okay, so we have a couple more minutes before we have to move to our next presentation, so Attorney Castano.
Thank you.
Just take a couple minutes.
So first of all, to the abutters, when I first got called by Urban Core Development and Joe, and Joe's dad was in the neighborhood many years with many properties, and Bobby's been in the neighborhood, lives at the old Tetchy building, which is now called Michelle. I'm excited to work with them on this building, but I have to admit I was concerned, you know, being a lifelong resident in the neighborhood and knowing this part of Endicott Street, this part of the North End is really the only place Ward 3 Precinct 4 has a lot of lifelong residents left in the neighborhood. So I felt that it was going to be a tough meeting. However, it's been really a pleasure to work with them. It's been professional. It's been respectful. We try to address all the concerns. I know people had a lot of concerns with this design. I think Peter did a wonderful job. As you can see, the bay really it doesn't even create an impact. You can't even see it, but I think he's done a wonderful job and try to address the 3 concerns that the people had. Just to address the overlay district real quick.
I'm sorry, but we're really out of
All
time.
right, 30 seconds, overlay district? 30 seconds?
I think people understand what the overlay district is.
Well, I think they understand, but I respectfully disagree with the assessment.
But I'm sorry, but we're really out of time.
That's okay, that's fine. That's fine. No, that's okay.
Sorry, I think
That's okay.
we tried
That's
to
fine.
give a good amount of time to this proposal, so I can't say that we haven't given it adequate time. So if someone would like to make a motion, please, to either support or not support. Okay, so we have a motion to either support or not support or oppose this proposal. Will someone second that? Okay, so if everybody has their ballot, is there ballot number 1? Presenter, I'd just like to announce the results of the last vote. We had 14 who supported and 22 who opposed. So we will not be supporting that project as currently configured.